Thank you all for joining us. And this is definitely a very important issue of e-invoicing at a time when more companies are offering services digitally, and borders are also merging into your shipping abroad, etc. So, Vishwanath, I'll hand it over to you to take the discussion forward. And I request all our panelists to please keep their videos on so that when you're inside, you're in mind. So please keep your videos on.
Thank you, Anisha, for the lovely introduction. You've done most of it, and let's get straight to it then. I'd like to ask Mr. Sumit on what exactly is an e-invoice. I mean, in this digital world, if we have to start from the very basic, what exactly is an e-invoice? What does it take to get an e-invoice? What are the software? If you could tell us about it, it'll be great.
Great, Vishwanath, thank you. First of all, thank you everyone. So the e-invoice is if you understand in the era of India, right? 2 years back when Modi government decided we have to digitalize all the invoices. What's the mean of that? Today also people generate one document invoice. Some generate through physical invoice on the paper, right? And someone generate through their ERP and take a printout. So that also is a digital copy and send on the email. Then what's the e-invoice, right? The major difference between normal invoice and e-invoice, when you generate an invoice, government is saying this entire invoice data you send me at a central system, that at a NIC system, which is developed by GSTN and Government of India. So there is a one central system NIC, which is a IRP, right? We have to push that entire data to Government of India, and Government of India give a one unique number, IRN, right, against that invoice data. So that unique number is a reference number for that e-invoice, and this is the unique number for the entire country. So that number will not repeat for anyone else. So that way government get a real-time data of that document, which is moving from one place to other, or the goods are moving, or supply happening from one person to other. So e-invoice required for whether it's you are selling the goods or service. In both the case, you have to generate the e-invoice. So the same IRN code and IRN number and QR code, you have to print on your normal invoice, and the same normal invoice copy became a digital copy or e-invoice copy. So that's where there are a lot of myths are there whether I have to generate separate invoice copy as an e-invoice. Not required. You can just print the IRN code and QR code on your regular invoice, that your normal invoice will get converted in e-invoice. Means it's a common language which anyone can understand. That's the major aspect of the government. You make your all invoices in a single format, a single schema, so that data can be, EDI system can be data can be interfaced from one system to other system automatically. So that's all about the e-invoice.
Thank you so much, Sumit. And I presume this has great significance in the way businesses function on a day-to-day basis. What kind of impact does an e-invoice have on the business, Mr. Anand? It will be great if you could share your thoughts on that. You're on mute, Mr. Anand. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. So I hope everybody is aware about e-invoicing basic concepts. So I would like to focus on how it has changed the way India was doing business. So like all the new introductions done by the government, in case of e-invoice, there has been certain advantages and certain disadvantages as well. So if I would like to say, so we are a 5,000 odd crore company. So the major advantages at all the levels is that earlier somewhere finance or business used to get into manual invoice, which has been completely eliminated because of this e-invoice part. Number one. Number two, everything is now digital. Data is flowing to the government side. So earlier people used to manipulate, fake, all those things. Small players used to do that. That has reduced to a lot of extent. So that is point number two. One can check through the mobile app by scanning the QR code. So that is a major part which has reduced a lot of these manipulations, wrong invoices, all those aspects. And it has led to digitalization. So we as a company has digitalized everything. So if business has to adapt to a new thing introduced by the government, it has to be a user-friendly one. So we have made everything automatic, by which for business there is no impact. They are getting invoice as usual. So these are the 3, 4, and last but not the least, e-waybill data is getting auto-populated from e-invoice. So that reduces some of the workload from an operations or business point of view. And it leads to automation and all. But there are certain disadvantages or lacuna which needs to be foolproof by the government to make it the best system for India. So like at this point of time, there are different turnover limits. So e-invoice is only applicable for people who have a turnover of more than 50 crores. And a valid invoice is an invoice wherein a tax invoice should have, if applicable, should have IRN number, and it should be a proper e-invoice. From a business point of view, it becomes very difficult to identify. Suppose I am dealing with 1,000 odd vendors. Every time, if a vendor is not giving e-invoice, I have to check with that vendor whether your turnover is less than 50 crore or more than 50 crore. So that remains a challenge for big businesses. So to make the system very efficient, it should be applicable for each and every person. Else, for a bigger business setup, it becomes a challenge. If I have to go and ask people who are not giving e-invoices whether e-invoices is applicable on you, because it is not mandatory on everyone. It is mandatory on turnover more than 50 crores in last 3 years. So that is point number one. Point number two, which government clearly needs to look into, which I hope all the other finance leaders based out of this panel would agree with me. At this point of time, whatever data is we are generating from e-invoice goes in preparation of GSTR1. Suppose Olam as a company is generating 100 invoices, say 1,000 invoices, I will get only total data. I will not get invoice-wise data, due to which practically all the businesses, what they are doing, they are deleting entire data. That option is there, and then again they are uploading the entire sales register, which should not be the place. Second, the most critical point is that at this point of time also, due to government, some challenges are there. They have given the facility to change the e-invoice data. Suppose I have generated one e-invoice for 100 rupees, and once I am filing my GSTR1 return, which is my sales return, I can go and change that sales number to 110. So that is a big system loophole, which at least government should look into, and which should not be there. If we are using the system, it has to be foolproof. So that is one more point. Third point is that business is facing major challenge because you cannot change any e-invoice once it is generated. Number one. Number two, you cannot cancel any e-invoice after 24 hours, which is a major problem, because practically, see, theoretically, all these things are possible, 24 hours, all those things, and you cannot amend. So amendment facility should be made applicable for all the users, and GSTR1 should be freezed. That is, a company sales register should be automatically populated, and a business should be able to see all the line items. At this point of time, as a business, we are unable to see. Suppose I have raised 500 invoice, I can see total 500 invoice. This is the turnover. If it is not matching, I don't have any option to see which invoice they have made error, which GSTN has made error in uploading the same. So these are the few challenges which I hope, if government puts up or make it a better one, then it will be a very useful system for the bigger businesses and for the smaller businesses, and it will lead to a lot of transparency and will take India to the next level.
Okay. Thank you, Anand. Mr. Neeraj, do you echo the similar challenges faced by Olam? Because he put up some pertinent points on sales registers and GSTR1 and cancelling of invoices. Because on a day-to-day, challenges that are faced, business efficiency drops if such is the case. Do you face such challenges? You have any input on that?
Thank you, Vishwanath, Anisha, Sumit, and thank you, Sumit and Anand. I completely echo what Anand said. And of course, Sumit also explained about what are the invoicing and what are the practical challenges. Anand has been quite, detailed about, explaining what are the challenges we are facing, and he's right. That kind of challenge is there. But one has to understand, is this, it's a GST is an evolving process. Not that GSTN or this kind of invoicing system has been followed across the world. They're the only few countries today following globally the e-invoicing process. And we are one such country. We are such a big nation, and and then the number of the users and the traders. So it's evolving. All I'm saying, the first time when GST was implemented in 2017 till today, there's a lot of improvement has happened, a lot of ease has come, but definitely some more changes to be done in terms of, like Anand was clearly mentioning, from e-invoicing to GSTR1. If it's detailed comes, 100% accuracy comes, then life will become much more easier. If another aspect of, I may just look at the legal aspect of it. The law says that even this kind of the facilities being offered by these tools or IRP or GST inside, but accuracy remains the responsibility of the supplier or the SSC. So if anything goes wrong, if any wrong reporting happens, it's whose liability is the SSC. It's not any of the portals. So we cannot rely or cannot say that because this data has come from the e-invoicing portal and it's automatically populated to my GSTR1, hence the accuracy is presumed. So the challenge is there, but I still feel that the kind of speed, kind of accuracy, kind of time saving has come compared to the manual process which we had earlier. It is a better situation. We are better off today. In terms of quickly generating e-billing, and if you look at overall data also for a nation as a whole, or for a country perspective, not if I look at alone as SSC, the tax collection has grown up significantly once this e-invoicing has been implemented. So that reflects there is multiple advantages coming out of this system. Yes, there are some teething issues, some disadvantages, which of course government should look at, and government is looking at it, what we understand now, and which should, I believe, and I'm hopeful that will be resolved over a period of time. And invoicing or dispatching is the way forward.
Yeah. So Sumit, you were saying something.
Yeah, just want to add one point. Anand, you raise a very valid point, and just want to inform you, like now government have started giving a like invoice data in GSTR1 completely. So in ClearTax system today, like people are able to download the data from GST system. Only today also the one thing which is missing is the line level data. So you get an invoice level total data in GSTR1, but the breakup of that invoice at a line level, item level, which comes in e-way bill, is not available in e-invoice. So we are also giving the feedback to GST system. If that transformation can happen, then the entire e-invoice system can be connected with ERPs, and entire invoice processing can become automated. So that will be a great for a buyers as well. So things are in process, but today at least line level, invoice level data, it's started getting auto-populated in GSTR1.
Mr. Anand, you raised another pertinent point on companies which are less than 50 crore turnover having to raise manual invoices, and for larger organizations such as yours, the onus is upon you to reconcile those manual invoices and e-invoices. I mean, it's a challenge for sure. How are you overcoming it in today's world? Because that is something, the government has to come about and tell, reduce the limits of the turnover before we find a solution to this, right? So how is your organization or how is your function coping up with that challenge?
So see, couple of things I have already mentioned. So first of all, see, since we are unable to check data, whatever is coming auto-populated in GSTR1 through e-invoicing, we are going and deleting all the data and then re-uploading the entire sales register. So even the system is there, but we have to do that part, number one. Number two, for whatever this turnover part, we have to go and check on a manual basis. Sometimes we have to take that declaration. But see, the basic challenge at that point of time comes in case there are some problematic vendor. It happens in 2% cases maybe. But if the vendor is a problematic one, it leads to problems. And at this point of time, see what will happen in future. Suppose in e-invoicing, I have generated an e-invoice, I have amended or I have cancelled, and then due to certain reasons, I have changed the data in GSTR1. I completely see a scenario wherein people will start getting notices after a couple of months, wherein they will tell, okay, you have generated e-invoice for 10 rupees and you have filed in GSTR1 10.50 paise. You reconcile, provide the reasons. So all those challenges will definitely going to come. We have not received any such notices, but we are receiving almost 3 to 4 notices every month. So from GST, 3B, 2A, this, that.
Right,
So
right.
I hope that this is going to come in future.
So I think because of the mix of manual and digital invoices, there will be a lot of compliance issues. How do you, Mr. Neeraj, how do you see compliance playing a part in such filing of returns? Because a mix of both, right? If it is digital, we can have one solution. If it is manual, there's another solution. Now, because it's a combination of both, there will be some friction.
No, I do agree with Anand and all of you. There is an issue today. Up to 50 crore turnover, only the supplier are required to issue the e-invoice. Below 50 crore turnover are not issuing e-invoice. That's point number one. Point number two, Anand has raised one important point, that as a user, as a receiver of the invoice, I cannot make out who's mandatorily required to issue the invoice, who's not. And hence there can be some issue. Having said that, what I look at, and we have look this or put this problem in the bigger perspective. As I like said in my first remark, we are a big nation and we are millions of traders. Today, if government, we are not we're a democratic country. If government comes today that look, every vendor has to issue only e-invoice, there'll be complete hue and cry in the country. There is a small trader, SMEs, MSMEs, small business houses, they're running, they cannot. And second thing, the cost of compliance. We pass for the compliance, they don't look at the cost of compliance. Today, if you do this kind of compliance, there is the cost involved in buying software, installing trained people. So if government makes a mandatory that everybody has to do it, it will fail. We have to make the process or some policy which people can accept it and which system can digest it. So I do believe that the challenges is there for reconciling on compliance, because up to 50 crore invoices which I receive electronically, that can flow directly to the GSTR1. For remaining invoices, I have to do another medium to upload the data and file the return. But yes, if I am dealing with a vendor or the supplier of a size 50 crore and above, definitely I am a big business house. In that case, I can afford the compliance, and I can, by putting this extra effort, I'm contributing to the success of the new regime government has done for e-invoicing or GST, and I should be with it. That's how I look at it.
Right. Right. Mr. Sumit, do you have a specific solutions for compliance? Because now that, until, the wheels move about smoothly, currently we see that there are friction, and India is still, a couple of years away from creating that seamless flow of transactions. Before that, is there an oil system in place to, kind of help larger companies move about seamlessly from a compliance standpoint?
I think Vishwanath, that's a great question, and like I am really proud. Like we have solved that problem very well. So like today, even though to identify whether vendor have an e-invoice applicability or not, we have a solution for that. Even though entire transformation of invoice, like when you are getting an invoice from a vendors physically, how to link that invoice with e-way bill data or e-invoice data. And at the time of invoice, first time when AP team get an invoice or GRN team do a GRN, that time there's a system to do a three-way check with e-invoice data and e-way bill data and QR code data, and ensure the right invoice is get punched in the system and fake invoice get rejected at the time of inception itself. So that's why ClearTax have built up products which connect with a different government system and do a data scanning from a physical invoices and match at the time of inception. So as a company, we believe let's solve the problem at root cause so that subsequent event doesn't happen. So today the maximum issues what people are facing in ITC is due to wrong accounting or accounting errors, right? And that's where government brought the e-invoice key. If the e-invoice data get flow properly or seamlessly, the mismatch on the accounting number or the way of accounting of different companies can come in the single unique structure. That was the major purpose of bringing e-invoice. Otherwise, invoice was already there and e-way bill system was already there in system. To bring bridge the gap between these two aspects. Today, even though EDI system has been not implemented by Government of India, but ClearTax have built that system where people are able to do that entire invoice processing automatically or digitally with all the checks and balances. And the second part, what Anand was referring, entire GSTR1 data auto population. That also we have solved completely, where the data get reconciled with the sales data and give a transaction. These are the 7 transactions where e-invoice not got generated, or these are the transactions where e-invoice got generated, but you have cancelled in your system. So that reconciliation also system does automatically give that reports before filing. So systems has been built now, and I think this is a time where most of the companies needs to move to a technology by which like they can do a seamless filing on the time. Otherwise, doing all those tasks manually is a really cumbersome task and prone to error. Like that's the definitely challenge for every one of us today.
Yeah, we've seen the transition of rather we are in the middle of transition from a manual to an e-invoice, and due to the friction itself, many businesses come about. Right, there are many solutions for frictions, and as Mr. Neeraj mentioned, that India is a very large country, and we have to move together to make the system as seamless as possible. Right, and with the onset of e-invoice, have the corporates seen more efficiency in business? Do you see a positive impact on the top line, Mr. Neeraj? Is that a factor that you can attribute to the e-invoices?
See, I cannot say about my own business because I am more a B2C company. But having said that, as a concept, I can tell you definitely it has an impact on the top line. I was talking to some time back. I was talking to one businessman who's into transport business. He said that my efficiency out of the investment of my truck are far better. Else while my truck from here to Calcutta is used to take say 4 days to and fro. It takes 2 days now. It's all because of all the gates has gone. I throw e-way bill and no checking. So the time for transportation has reduced by 50%, and that of definitely, if I'm a businessman, I'm doing a turnover of 100, my 100 become 200 when the same time, same asset investment by merely implementing a changing of a law. So this is an example what business can achieve by the digitization or e-invoicing. Today, by doing this e-invoicing, invoice can be raised, by the click of button. It can go to the supplier or buyer immediately, and then record in the system, and through QR code, the machine can read the entire invoice, and payment can be processed. So else while print the invoice, send through courier, reach to the person, then team account, and make the payment. So 4 or 5 days delays itself can slow down your entire growth or speed of the doing business.
Correct.
So definitely, as a concept or as the way it's operating, it's impacting the turnover for individual companies. At the same time, overall turnover or
efficiency
growth
has increased. Efficiency has increased.
Obviously, yes.
Yeah, and you rightly put it, right? The trucks in Indian highways today stop lesser than what they used to do before. Right, as a frequent traveler, I see that playing out in live scenarios. But how is it when we talk about the transition between India and abroad, Mr. Anand? Do you see if there is more efficiencies in terms of reporting, in terms of reconciliation for an Indian business to be transitioned to a global reporting per se?
See, whatever we have seen or understood, India has implemented the systems which are not there across the globe. So India has definitely set up the benchmarks, because I don't think invoice-wise matching is available only in some of the countries, maybe 4 or 5 countries across the globe. And in India is one of the countries wherein this line item-wise invoice matching concept is there. So India is far ahead. But yes, I will definitely say that due to complexities, we have to continuously evolve as a business, and government also needs to continuously evolve day after day to make the system, whatever loopholes are there, to make it a more robust one, so that it helps the government also, and it acts as a beneficial thing to the business entity as a whole. Definitely the system is beneficial, but yes, there are certain loopholes or certain challenges which needs to be addressed to make it a more efficient and more world-class system. But nevertheless, it is one of the best systems. If anybody is comparing on a global basis, I think India has implemented one of the best system, and which is a showcase for other countries, because definitely the complexities and type of business and the nature of businesses which are there in India is much more compared to other countries. The kind of small businesses, the kind of paperwork which is there, the kind of manual systems which are there earlier. So India has traveled a lot with GST coming into the picture and with this e-invoicing, but still a long way to go to make it a more better one.
Right, right. I mean, we're glad that people are optimistic and I'd say realistic. Optimism is for the future. Realistic is that we are appreciating the systems in place. Any near-term challenges that we see, Mr. Sumit, in terms of any immediate loophole that is there to be plugged? What is the long-term view in terms of GST? Where do we go from the current scenario? Because there are challenges on the move. We are trying to solve it. How do you see an ideal system play out?
Like if you ask me, like ideal system, if you are in GST regime, like I believe like the first of all, the e-way bill and e-invoice, out of these two, like e-way bill system can be scrapped out, and government can make a e-invoice including e-way bill detail. Like if you compare e-invoice and e-way bill, except transportation detail, everything is there in e-invoice. So making two documents may not be a right choice, where government can make a part A, part B also in part of e-invoice, and that was the initial thought process also of government, and it's in process in that way. Maybe in coming year we see that as going to be a change where e-way bill will go away and e-invoice will have a detail of e-way bill transportation details as well. And the second part, that entire data like population automatically in the systems, right? So today, like a filing become a very cumbersome process for people to do a multiple recon, right? When they are doing a e-invoice versus sales recon, then when they're doing a purchase, then they are doing a purchase recon versus 2A recon, then 2B recon. So many recons are there which make a entire filing process complex for a bigger organizations, and they are dependent on ecosystem, especially after this budget, right? And 1st January onwards, like when every one of you knows, right, you can't take any input credit unless until it's reflected in 2B, which is very, I can say, strict provision from a government of India, from the GST department, which impacting a lot of working capital for people. Means you have to push your ecosystem for compliance. And if you go with a budget announcement where they are saying, if your supplier have done the filing, it's reflecting in 2B, but they have not paid the tax, or they have paid the tax less than the liability what they have shown in GST. Like that, they were made multiple more provision, then you are not eligible for credit, even though it's reflecting to be. Means those complexities can be made ease out. Otherwise, the compliances are going to be more burdensome. It's ensure like key government is getting revenue, but same time getting that compliant, doing a follow with so many vendors become like a big task for a finance function. So two things I see, like a more easiness of the business, where things will start getting auto-populated, liabilities, all those will start auto-populated. E-way bill, e-invoice will become one system. And the third part, like the compliance frequency, especially for QRMP, right, where quarterly return filer, it's just to say it's a quarterly return, but people needs to pay liability every month, so they have to prepare return every month in the see total how much needs to be paid, and then they have to upload that IFF facility, they have to upload invoice every month. Almost they are doing every month task. So really, like a tax payment, those facilities also can be made quarterly itself, so that can ease out the, especially for a smaller business whose turnover is less than 5 crore. These are the few changes which we are expecting in coming days in the GST side.
Right, right. Mr. Neeraj, in terms of the real estate and construction sector, right? In terms of the real estate and construction sector, do you see any sector-specific challenges in terms of the GST per se? Do you see any sector-specific challenges?
Sorry.
Okay.
Sector-specific challenges, real estate side, now if you ask question personalized, the answer will be personalized.
Yeah.
So if real estate size, we always believe that there's one thing government has done is, now Sumit has Sumit and Anand both are raising point what government should do. So far I was thanking government what government has done, but now if you're putting the can you give me a glass of water? Suggesting that we should ask what government should do. So the quote unquote I'm keeping reservations in mind, but government should in the case of real estate sector,
Yes.
what happens is law change, and thereby in real estate there is no ITC is not available today.
Correct.
For all the project which you launch after a certain date. So ITC, the very rational behind that change was that there's a lot of demand from customer side that rate of GST should be reduced in the housing and home so that it can become affordable in the hands of the buyer. But it so happened while doing the change, what government did is they have reduced the rate of tax for the customers, but done away with the ITC provision. So today, if I'm buying at say even 12%, 18% rate, and I'm not getting any input credit, but while charging customer, I'm charging say 5% tax. So essentially for customer, 100 rupees plus 18 on over that 5%. However, in earlier regime, I was able to take credit of 18 rupees. Even I'm charging 12 from the customer, I was charging only on 100 rupees. 18 rupees was input credit. So essentially that has increased the cost instead of reducing the cost or giving the ultimate or achieving the objective for which the rate was reduced. So real estate sector, even before this budget also was a lot of noise came or request from the government that it should be relooked at, input credit should be provided for the sector, which government its own wisdom yet to consider. Of course, that's all depend upon again the GST Council, not the government or finance minister can alone take a call on it. So that is as far as real estate sector is concerned, input credit. That is what we are looking at it. But broadly, our theme today was broadly to looking at what the overall basis, the compliance or e-invoicing or GST is impacting.
Right.
To that parlance, my
no,
thought.
The reason why I asked is because we are all home buyers, right? We would want to know how it is affecting us to kind of understand whether our new home purchases will go down. Is it likely to go down?
We saw always use very often optically how it looks like. So optically, the government has reduced the GST rate earlier to buying a home. Even earlier regime, if you remember, I mean, Sumit and Anand all are expert. So earlier regime, there is a service tax and VAT both. So VAT used to be 14% and service tax is 16%. So both were charged from a home buyer. If somebody was buying a home, the certain part of your cost is treated as a material, certain part was service, and material portion you have to pay the 14% VAT, and for service portion you have to pay the service tax. Of course, it has own other compliance challenges. For service tax, one has to comply with the central government norms, and for VAT, for state government. So I'm not touching on going to that compliance aspect. For customer and pricing aspect. So it optically, it's looked like customer was paying 15-16% on average, tax on the home we are buying, and government said, okay, look, now we have GST, I'm reducing your tax, you have to pay 5%, 1%. So you should be happy. I'm reduced. But if look into detail of it, or an expert like Sumit and Anand, if you get into detail, figure out it's not. If government has done away with the 18 rupees earlier, which I am giving the home buyers the input credit, I was not treating as the cost. I was treating only 100 rupees cost, and on that I was, while doing my pricing, I was thinking on that I will charge tax and pay to the government. Today, while I'm pricing, I'm thinking 100 plus 18 is my cost. So essentially, even if when
thank you for that. It's more like hotels, on the lines of hotels, where they don't have input credit on the raw materials that they purchase, but the tax on food is 5%. It is something similar in the real estate sector. There's
so that becomes cost for them. So for hotel, when he's billing, while doing his pricing, he will factor as a cost.
Correct. In fact, and what are the general set of challenges, Mr. Sumit, that you see from many other industries? Because you cater to a lot of corporates in terms of the GST filings, returns, software. You have ERP solutions. Would you like to tell us, some major challenges that the companies face across industries? Because Mr. Neeraj mentioned about industry specific to his domain, and we know about hotels. Anything that in particular that you want to mention, a couple of industries?
So just on the law aspect, textile industry and any industry where they have a input tax at a higher rate and the output tax rate is lower, they are struggling with the input tax credit getting accumulated at their end. There means entire input tax credit is getting just accumulated, especially a e-commerce companies which are having very low output because they are initial days, but they have a lot of inputs because they are taking a lot of services, software services or other services. So they have a lot of input, but as a still business not started or business have a low as a top line, the entire input tax credit is just getting accumulated in crore and crores, but they are not able to use it completely. That's one challenge is what we are hearing from a different segment, especially in I can say textile or e-commerce companies. We are hearing these challenges, and apart from that, the regular changes by government making and the regular ERPs are not that easy to change those or adopt those changes. And that's where many companies are struggling and industry is struggling. How I keep my ERP system updated with the regular changes done by the government of India in different regulations. And that's where like a clear kind of a company got emerged, and we are making a tool above or on ERP or connect with the ERP, where you're like any enterprise not required to change ERP. Just take this tool which connect with ERP, and all the changes have been managed, maintained by this SaaS tool. That's where we are trying to solve that big problem of a lot of enterprises, which they today feel like it's a very cumbersome otherwise to manage. And the third part, like where people are facing challenge is the data source, because different I can say like different departments like income tax, GST or TDS, everywhere now data is getting exchanged between these departments, right? So giving us same information or giving a same like data source to all those departments are very important and critical. And these are the different departments within a company, right? Direct tax has been handled by someone else, indirect tax handled by someone else, but at a government end, all those get reconciled at one place. Your output, what you are reported in GST, get reflected in your income tax department, but internally you have two different departments. So how to like ensure like a single data source get reported in different authorities in the India who need this data? That's very important. And like their easiness of the data exchange can happen that help people to file the right return. So these are the few challenges what we are hearing from different enterprises.
In fact, most companies now, I mean, all the companies now have opted for GSTN and e-way bills and e-invoices. This has put a load on the bandwidth of the network providers. Right? That's because that's one of the biggest challenges, I think, on an income tax side that they face when the IT conglomerates which are managing that, the load just went beyond anybody's expectation. Is it the same case with GSTN portal also with the onset of e-invoices? Is the process seamless? Do you see any roadblocks there?
No. Now like system are quite stable and things are, and government have done very well, good job there, right? NIC system, GSTN system are quite stable now. And as you know, like now government bringing IRP system, new IRPs are coming in, like other than NIC. Because like that's the one of the reason like government not bringing the limit less than 50 crore turnover, because that's volume handling capacity just with NIC it's not possible. There are two things, like a B2C transaction is still are not in e-invoice preview. That also will come up, and the turnover limit from 50 crore it will reduce maybe 15 or 5 crore. But before that, like IRPs will come in picture. So today for a GST side, there are a lot of GSPs, like a ClearTax is a one GSP. Like that, there are multiple GSP who connect with the government system. So we are intermediary system who connect with government system. But in case of e-invoice today, only IRP is the one central data source. There are multiple IRPs, like multiple GST system will get established by the government of GST system. That way, the data load issue will sorted out in future. But current data or current volume is like NIC system is able to handle very well. So there's no much challenge apart from few glitches happen here and there, but otherwise systems are very well stable.
Right. I mean, going by what everybody has said, I'm really optimistic that we are in the right path to kind of iron out the friction, and we have processes in place. The tech systems are coming up, and more solutions are coming up wherever there is friction. Anything that you want to add as a last comment, Mr. Neeraj, in terms of how do you see this panning out in the near future, the next 5 to 10 years?
I see, definitely digitization or e-invoicing is a way forward, locally as well as globally. And this will happen and has to happen for the benefit of all of us. What all I see is, a lot of in domestic, if you look at a domestic local environment, the government is doing an investment in terms of GSTN or in terms of IRP, and doing a lot of changes in terms of bandwidth and data availability. At the same time, user SSC side also, one needs to do investment in terms of ERP or getting the tools to who can talk with different reporting portals and continuously changing that because of changes rules, etc. So investment in the key, what I'm trying to address, say is, this is a domestic environment, and then again the global. If you look at the global environment, the companies who's operating globally have doing businesses in multiple countries, and they have to make a system or software or ERP which can be used across the globe or across their operation different geographies. So for them, there will be little bit sort of challenge in terms of investment in the knowledge. First, to make any system, you has to invest in knowledge in terms of local laws, regulations, how it works. Like I said, for a real estate sector or a construction sector, GST norms are different. For another sector, or today B2B is a different invoicing norm, and B2C is different invoicing norm. So a software or a tool, one a company which is globally operating can make for India specific may not hold good for other country specific, other operation perspective. Having said that, if one has to do a trade globally, one has to do an investment in A, knowledge, and B, the technology. That has to be done, and that should be done. Then definitely the industry or businesses will reap the benefit of a speed and accuracy, and at the same time, economy, for a domestic economy as well as global economy and trade, will get benefited by the seamless the trade and the information exchange, data exchange, and the speed of business. That will be, and in this entire process, we as a individual who's working for any trade business organization will also get benefited in this cycle. So that's my.
You perfectly summarized it. You perfectly summarized it by 2 words: knowledge and technology. Right.
Yes.
That really is the key takeaway, for us this evening, after, knowing a lot about e-invoicing and GST. Who better than Sumit to talk about technology, to kind of put in his last thoughts on it, because knowledge is something, is an ongoing process, and so is technology. And Sumit, being on the side of technology, should let us know where does he see ClearTax, the next 5-10 years.
Like very friendly, like a ClearTax, we are aiming the 3 dream of any CFO, which we are trying to do. Like any CFO would like to make everything digital, everything automated, and like peace of mind.
I want to ask one small question to Sumit.
Yes.
Not related to global, but just for curiosity's sake. I was talking to one SAP ERP, and I was just checking with them. I want to implement SAP, which can be automatic tool for my service provider for this tax return, etc. Also, they said if you want to go with some X way, they given a list of 5-6 vendors, and said if you want to go for ClearTax is not my preferred or impaneled partner for this process. I was astonished, but just want to understand, is this true or?
Okay, I tell you, like ClearTax, for SAP, we are a biggest competitor for this product, because we both are a competitor in the same product. And as a ClearTax product, are like as a certification process, we are already SAP certified, or like that process where now SAP have agreed to give a certification. Till now, like I can say, we were working as a competitor to each other. But product wise, like today 3,000 plus enterprise or SAP enterprises are using ClearTax.
I'm not saying at all about the product. I'm only saying as a business, I like ClearTax. Rather, I like Sumit very much, on all of you, and I want to go with it. But at the same time, the filing tax is not it is incidental to my business. The essential thing is the core ERP, and there the other big player, this technological giant SAP is sitting. When I was talking to him, he said, "Okay, you like ClearTax, but I do not like them. So if you want to deal with me, you have to deal with the person whom I like."
That's not true.
That person whom they like is costing me more, and ClearTax is costing me more. My region of liking ClearTax is that. So I said, okay, I want for if I also again went further. I said, if they are not even in panel, they are not preferred. Why don't you make it preferred? If you want, I will talk to them. Make it preferred. I want to go for ClearTax.
No, but I think now it's, Sumit, it's just competition thing.
Yeah, so I think in terms of there are different organizations with different perspectives, and I'm sure whether it is ClearTax or whether it is SAP or whether it is any other company, will find ways to move along with each other. And in terms of the way the knowledge was imparted today in terms of the e-way bills and GST, and I think the audience has been left more knowledgeable than they were before. And I would like to thank both of you for the insightful comments and experiences that you've shared. Anisha, would you like to take over?
Thank you so much, Vishwanath, for steering this discussion. And thank you, Sumit and Neeraj, for giving us your inputs. A little technical for lay people like me, but I'm sure this has been a wealth of information for all the attendees who've been, trying to gauge what's it going to be like for e-invoicing. It is not simple. It is complicated. Thank you all for breaking it down and making it somewhat simpler for everybody here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.